My mother-in-law, Diana, was practically basking in satisfaction. She thought she had managed to turn my own dog against me. I smiled, not because it amused me, but because she had no idea just how wrong she was. At 3 a.m., my phone rang, jolting me awake in my Seattle hotel room. I was there for a veterinary conference, and Diana knew exactly when I would be away. Her voice dripped with smugness as she explained how she had fixed my relationship with Zeus, my German shepherd. "I've shown him who deserves his loyalty," she purred. "Now, he'll protect James from you, instead of the other way around." At 32, I never thought I'd hear my mother-in-law proudly boast about stealing my dog's loyalty, but Zeus wasn't just any dog. He was highly trained, a protection animal certified for personal security. I had raised him from a puppy, trained him, and worked with him for years. Diana thought a few treats would undo all that. "Interesting," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "And how exactly did you manage that?" She laughed, confident in her success. "Oh, it was easy. I've been visiting while you're at work, showing him who really belongs here. A few special treats, some training sessions. He knows better now." I closed my eyes, suppressing my anger. She had no idea what she was talking about, but whatever she'd done, she truly believed she had succeeded in turning Zeus against me. "You shouldn't even have dogs," she added. "How can you provide James with a proper family when you're always working with animals? At least now Zeus will be useful, protecting my son from your career ambitions." I exhaled slowly. I could have argued with her, told her how completely mistaken she was, but I didn't need to. Instead, I simply said, "Thanks for letting me know," and hung up. I grabbed my laptop, recalling the security cameras I'd installed after Diana's last interference, when she tried to turn my home office into a nursery while I was out of town. They were about to prove useful again. Logging in, I scanned the live feed. Zeus was right where he should be, curled up on his bed in the living room. James was upstairs, sound asleep, unaware of his mother's late-night scheming. I rewound the footage. There she was, as expected, each afternoon right on time, letting herself in with the spare key James had given her for emergencies. Every time, she came bearing treats, carefully unwrapped from their original packaging. "These will help you understand," she'd said in one clip, holding out a piece of food. "You don't deserve his loyalty." My jaw tightened. Zeus took the treats. He was trained not to reject food from someone familiar, but I noticed the way he held back, the slight tension in his posture. He wasn't fooled. Diana, in her ignorance, mistook his discipline for acceptance. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that Zeus wasn't just a guard dog. He was part of an elite program I'd helped develop at my clinic, training service animals for military veterans. His conditioning was far too advanced for bribery or manipulation to work. I grabbed my phone and called Mark, my lead veterinary technician. "Hey, I need you to check on Zeus," I said as soon as he answered. "My mother-in-law has been feeding him something. Run a full toxicology screen." "Diana again," he sighed. "Yeah, but document everything and follow security protocol. Don't let her in." "Got it. Document want me to tell James?" I hesitated. My husband was a good man, but when it came to his mother, he was blind. "Not yet. Let's see what we find first." By morning, the lab results were in. Zeus was fine, alert, and healthy, but the treats were laced with a mild sedative. Nothing deadly, but enough to make him more docile, more susceptible to commands. Or so Diana thought. What the data showed, however, was that Zeus had pretended to be affected. His vital signs were steady, and his behavior unchanged where it mattered. He had been playing along. Just as I was about to call James, my phone rang again. "Diana, I just thought you might want to know." Her voice was overly sweet as she spoke. "Zeus growled at your picture today. I showed him that photo of you from the mantle, and he finally expressed how he truly feels. It's better this way, really. Now James will be properly protected." I glanced at my screen. Zeus was at the clinic, resting quietly in his kennel, completely at ease. "That's fascinating," I replied smoothly. "Tell me, how did you manage this miracle of retraining in just 3 days?" She laughed with self-assurance. "Dogs know who they can trust. I simply helped them see the truth about you." I smiled, knowing she was clueless. "Oh, you certainly did. You certainly did," I said quietly. While she had been trying to manipulate Zeus, I had been busy documenting everything she did. The security footage, the test results, and the fact that she had intentionally tried to drug a certified service animal. A federal offense. It's always important to have everything on record, don't you think? There was a brief pause, and I could almost hear her confidence faltering. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You'll see soon enough," I murmured before hanging up. Opening my laptop, I began drafting an email to the State Veterinary Board, Animal Control, and the authorities. Diana had just made a massive mistake. For the next hour, I meticulously compiled the evidence, making sure every piece was undeniable. The security footage showed every unauthorized entry into my home. The lab results confirmed Zeus had been drugged. His specialized collar monitoring data revealed a pattern of someone systematically undermining his training. But the final piece, the one that would expose the truth, required a phone call that I dialed James. He picked up on the second ring. "We need to talk about your mother," I said, my voice calm. There was a pause, followed by a sigh. "What did she do this time?" The resignation in his voice stung more than anger ever could. 12 years of marriage had worn him down, conditioned him to accept his mother's interference. But this wasn't just meddling. This was something else entirely. "She's been drugging Zeus," I said. "I have proof. Security footage, lab results, everything." Silence, then a sharp intake of breath. "What?" "She's been sneaking in while I'm gone, feeding him, sedatives hidden in treats, trying to retrain him against me." His voice broke slightly. "She just called to brag about it." "That's right," I replied. "It's not possible? Well, I'm sending you the footage now." I cut in, attaching the files to the email. "Watch it, then call me back." I hung up, knowing he would need time. Diana had spent years weaving a careful web, manipulating and gaslighting, always managing to stay just out of reach of consequences. But this time, she had made a mistake. She had left evidence. My phone buzzed. Mark, from the clinic, calling. "Elena, you need to see this," he said, his voice grim. "We found residue from the treats in Zeus's bed. The lab confirms it's a veterinary sedative. Prescription only." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "Check the clinic's inventory. Anything missing in the last month?" I already did. Remember the break-in 3 weeks ago? We didn't think anything was taken, but Diana had been volunteering around that time, insisting she wanted to understand my work. "I had let my guard down send me the security footage from that week," I said, my fingers moving quickly over the keyboard. I drafted another email. James had watched the videos, but before I could call, my phone rang again. "I'm coming home," James said, his voice trembling. "I need to see Zeus. Make sure he's okay. He's at the clinic. Mark's watching him." I reassured him. "But James, there's more. The sedatives. Whoever took them knew exactly what they were doing, and your mother had access." He inhaled sharply. "You think she—" "We're checking the footage now." Another silence, thick with tension. Finally, he said, "I'll meet you at the clinic. Don't do anything until I get there." But it was already too late. While we were talking, my email to the State Veterinary Board had been answered. They were taking the matter very seriously. Tampering with a certified service animal was bad enough, but the theft of controlled substances had pushed Diana into felony territory. When James arrived, his face was pale, his usual calm demeanor replaced by something unreadable. Without a word, he pulled me into a tight embrace. "I should have listened," he whispered. "All those times you said something wasn't right with her. I should have listened." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. James looked at me. "Should I?" I shook my head. Let's see what she says. I put the call on speaker. Diana's voice was dripping with feigned concern. Elena, dear, I just wanted to check on Zeus. He seemed a bit unstable earlier. Perhaps all your traveling is affecting him more than you realize. James flinched. I kept my tone steady. Actually, Zeus is doing great. We just finished his quarterly certification review. Would you like to know what that entails? Diana hesitated. I'm sure it's very technical. Oh, it is, I said. We test for all sorts of things. Training interference, drug screenings, behavioral assessments, and monitoring data. It's fascinating what we can uncover, I continued. The silence on the other end of the line stretched, thick with tension. For example, I pressed, we can pinpoint exactly when an animal is drugged, what substance was used, and how often. It's all carefully documented. I don't know what you mean, she stammered, but the confidence was gone from her voice. James's tone grew sharp. Mom, what did you do? A sharp gasp. James, I was protecting you. By breaking into Elena's clinic? By stealing drugs? By trying to turn our dog against my wife. His voice was steady but thick with disbelief. You don't understand, she pleaded. She's never home. Always working with animals. Never giving you a proper family. I was trying to help. By committing a felony? I asked mildly. The veterinary board is very interested in discussing that with you. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. I'm family. No. James said quietly, his voice full of finality. Family doesn't do this. I sent her the final piece of evidence. A security video showing her sneaking into the clinic's medication storage, selecting the sedatives she would later use on Zeus. The sharp intake of breath told me she had seen it. Like I said, I murmured, everything is documented. The line went dead. James exhaled slowly, running a hand over his face. What happens now? I glanced over at Zeus's kennel. He lay calm and content, his tail wagging as he watched us through the glass. Diana's tampering hadn't changed him. His loyalty, like that of true family, couldn't be bought or manipulated. Now, I said softly, we let the system do its job. James nodded, squeezing my hand. We take care of our real family. And that, finally, no longer included Diana. The following weeks unfolded exactly as expected. Diana's carefully constructed facade crumbled under the weight of irrefutable proof. The police investigation uncovered more than we'd originally discovered. She hadn't just stolen sedatives. She'd been stockpiling them for months, meticulously planning her misguided attempt to fix our family. I sat behind one-way glass at the police station, watching her struggle to justify her actions. Her usual tactics. Carefully measured tears feigned outrage. Fell flat against the detective's professional detachment. I was only trying to help, she insisted, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. That dog was unstable, too aggressive. I was protecting my son. The lead detective didn't flinch. He slid another document across the table. Zeus's most recent certification results, flawless as always. This is a highly trained service animal, Mrs. Cooper. Your actions could have destroyed years of specialized training. Her grip tightened on the tissue. But I'm his mother. I have a right to protect my son. By committing theft and attempting to alter the behavior of a certified service animal, the detective's voice was flat. That's a federal offense. James's hand tightened around mine as we watched the reality of her actions begin to crack her delusions. The prosecutor offered her a deal, probation and mandatory counseling in exchange for a guilty plea. No jail time, but a permanent criminal record. More importantly, she would be legally barred from entering any veterinary facility or interfering with service animals ever again. As we left the courthouse, James exhaled heavily. Do you think it's enough? I thought of Zeus, calm and unshaken, his training intact despite everything Diana had done to try and disrupt it. It's not about punishment, I said. It's about protection. At home, Zeus greeted us at the door, his tail wagging, his monitoring collar still tracking his perfect behavior patterns. Diana's crude attempts to manipulate him had never stood a chance against his training. Mark had already submitted the case as a study in service dog resilience. Honestly, he told me, it shows just how solid his training is. Zeus didn't just resist. He documented everything for us. Life settled into a new rhythm. Diana's absence left a complicated void. Painful for James, but freeing for me. He started therapy, finally unpacking the years of manipulation he had endured. I keep replaying everything, he admitted one evening as we watched Zeus patrol the backyard. The constant helpful suggestions, the undermining, the way she made me question you without even realizing it. How did I not see it? Because she was your mother, I said gently. And she was very good at making control look like care. 6 months later, a letter arrived from her counselor. Diana wanted to apologize in person. According to the therapist, she was beginning to recognize her behavior. I handed the letter to James. Your call. He read it twice, then shook his head. Not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. I nodded. Trust, once broken, couldn't be restored with a single apology. That evening, we sat on the back porch, Zeus stretched out at our feet. The quiet hum of crickets filled the air. Diana had tried to break something she didn't understand, but all she had done was prove how unbreakable it was. You know what's ironic? James mused, scratching behind Zeus's ears. Mom never understood that loyalty isn't about control. It's about trust. Zeus thumped his tail against the deck, looking up at James with the same steadfast devotion he had always shown. The monitoring collar still recorded his perfect behavior, untouched and unshaken. Diana had failed, not because she got caught or because she was punished, but because Zeus had never wavered. And now, finally, neither had we.